Welcome to your City Commission meeting. This is our study session tonight. Please turn off or silence all cell phones during the meeting. In accordance with the Kansas Open Meetings Act, the meeting can be viewed live on Channel 2 and via Facebook Live. The public is encouraged to view the meeting using one of those options. The Leavenworth City Commission meeting is open to the public with limited seating capacity. To mitigate the spread of COVID-19, face coverings and social distancing is required to attend the meeting. Refer to the agenda packet on the city website on how to reserve a seat and or submit comments. Meetings are televised every day on Channel 2 at 7 p.m. and midnight and available for viewing on YouTube and Facebook Live. First item on the agenda is the St. Patrick's Day Parade.
We have our guests come on up.
Well,
You want to just set up here?
Yeah, here would be fine. That chair would be fine. And
Either
Madam
you
Mayor
guys
just
wanna come
brought
up
back
here?
after we discussed this at the 19th meeting, and the commission asked to bring it back 2 weeks later, so it's before you tonight.
Okay. Anybody else want to come up and sit? Are you good? All right. You're on your own.
I just wanted to say I submitted the information. I really don't know if that was what you all wanted or not. I don't, as far as the COVID goes, I have no idea. No, I mean, like I said, she got it and did everything she was supposed to do, and I was sleeping with her until the night before she got diagnosed, and I never got it, so I don't. But I mean, all we can do is require them to wear a mask if the police want to be a presence and tell them, you've been warned, I don't know how many times, that you need to either put on a mask or go, or. But as far as the COVID goes, I don't know what else we could do.
And I read through your letter, and I think you've got everything in here that creates a.
Yeah, we're gonna do
safe
away with the
atmosphere
candy
as we
this
can.
year too, so
Do away with what, I'm sorry?
the candy,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they used to march along and hand it out.
sure.
And, I know that, the Veterans Day Parade never allows it, so.
Yeah. Well, that's probably a safe idea for this year especially. And by March 17th, who knows? Where we'll be. Hopefully we'll be a lot safer than we are today, but. I believe that you are working to make it as safe as we possibly can. Of course, we have no say on what people do outside of that and after that, but that's
Yeah, that has
really,
no
we have
bearing
no
on
control
us.
over that at all. Commissioners, do you have some comments on this?
I do.
Yes,
I
Mike. Thank you,
support going forward with the parade, and a couple of things I'd just like to point out. About 2.5 weeks ago, a few days before Mr. Scanlon came in front of the city commission, I know the city manager reached out to our county health officer, Mr. Jamie Miller, and he was positive about it. He said the trends were downwards and it was going to be outside in terms of the parade. But I know that at the meeting 2 weeks ago, I just said, well, let's see what the data looks like, and the data's going in the right direction. I mean, I know that particularly in terms of the positivity rate keeps dropping, the number 14-day moving average of number of cases keeps dropping, so that's all positive. And the fact that it's outside, and I like this. I like the point that you made in terms of your parade for participants staying in pods, staying together. That's very important. And we'll just, rely on the public when they come down to wear their masks. And I think they did it pretty well during the Veterans Day Parade. I mean, people were spread apart. I mean, they were in family groups, but most of them had masks on. So I'm positive about it, and I'm good with it, Mr. Scanlon.
Okay. Mr. Wilson, do you have anything, Commissioner?
Look forward to seeing the parade and look forward to being a part and willing to move forward with the parade.
Thank you. Commissioner?
As I said 2 weeks ago, I'm for it. The community needs it. It's be a great introduction to spring. Obviously, COVID's still going to be with us, but you've taken all the mitigating efforts, and this is something for the community, and we need something like this. And let's go. Just be as careful as possible.
Commissioner Reinhardt?
Yeah, I say let's go forward. It's improved statistics, positive signs in the vaccine pipeline, so they're getting out there. And yeah, it's an outdoor event, so, and we'd like to give, especially, you know, it's what, how many days away? 43 days, so.
6 weeks.
Yeah, and we have like the churches even waiting on your decision tonight for they were gonna go forward with their mass.
So,
They're gonna
yeah.
have a regular daily mass if they were gonna cancel the parade, so.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
As
no,
far
this
as
is a great,
vaccines go, he's already had his first.
oh, you have?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and this is a great letter, but yeah, I think we need to try to, it's gonna be a lot safer and bring the community together, and hopefully it'll be a beautiful day. I hope for that.
Like I said, it's gonna be on the participants' back too, to, you know,
Yes.
to do what we have strongly stated, so
Right,
that's all
that's
we can
right.
do.
That's right.
Yes. And I'm the last one, I guess, to
Yes.
speak, and I agree. I think that by springtime, we're ready to start looking at getting together, getting outside and celebrating spring and celebrating St. Patrick, which is a worldwide celebration, right? So, anyway, I would propose that we go ahead and permit the parade. I vote for that. I think we're all in consensus. Do we need a motion or?
Nope, just consensus is fine.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right,
Get it rolling.
Thumbs up.
we're good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
work.
Thank you, Mr. Scanlon, for all you do, and the other parade members, and it'll be great. Thank you so much.
Fingers crossed. Thank you all.
Good weather, yeah. Okay. Next item on the agenda, review political signs regulations.
Madam Mayor and Commission, I will turn this over in a minute to our Planning and Community Development Director, Julie Hurley. Tonight, I envision as sort of the first conversation about looking at the city's political sign regulations. Julie's going to give us, she's been working with our city attorney about legal changes we need to make, and then she has some considerations that she'd like for you to start thinking about. This will be probably back to at least one more study session. It also will have to go to the Planning Commission as it deals with the development regulations. But we thought we'd kick off that discussion tonight with the political sign regulations. So I'm going to turn it over to Julie.
Okay, thanks, Paul. So as Paul said, I've been working with City Attorney David Waters on some changes that we need to make to our regulations. The political sign stuff seems to come up every year. Things change at the state level, things change here, and so it seems like we're always scrambling, trying to get in line with what we need to be. So we're trying to get out ahead of it and really get in shape and what we need to be in line with the state regulations. So I've included our current language, that's kind of in your first paragraph. Currently, our regulations prohibit any political signs in the city right-of-way. We actually prohibit any temporary signs or permanent signs at all in the city right-of-way. That's fairly standard. However, a few years ago, Kansas amended their state statutes to say that no city or county shall regulate or prohibit the placement of or the number of political signs on private property or the unpaved right-of-way for city streets or county roads on private property during the 45-day period prior to any election and the 2-day period following any such election. We can regulate setbacks and size for safety issues and visibility issues, but statute does not allow us to prohibit signs in the right-of-way leading up to an election. And if you'll notice in the language that's there from the state statute, it does not say political signs. It just says, well, it does say political signs. But the Supreme Court has also ruled that we cannot be content specific. We have to try to stay content neutral. So in that light, we're trying to align our regulations so that we cover statute and also what the Supreme Court has ruled in terms of staying content neutral. So in working with Attorney Waters, we've looked at what a few other cities in the area have done and come up with what we think is some pretty good draft language that will cover us. That's on the second page. So I'll read it. I know you've had a chance to go through it, but just generally, we would be looking at regulating temporary signs in general and not calling out political signs specifically.
Okay.
So how we would propose that it read would be that temporary signs shall be allowed in the public right-of-way for 45 days immediately preceding any primary, general, or special elections as defined by the Leavenworth County Clerk, and shall be removed 2 days following said election. The person, party, or parties responsible for the erection or distribution of any such signs shall be jointly and individually responsible for their removal. All temporary signs placed in the public right-of-way during this time period shall be subject to the following size and setback distance regulations. Signs shall be set back 6 feet from the back of the curb. Signs shall not be placed where they interfere with intersection sight distances. Signs shall not exceed 6 square feet in face area and 4 feet in height. And signs shall not be affixed to any utility poles, trees, streetlights, bridges, benches, or similar public structures. So that's pretty in line with what a lot of other cities have started putting in place in the immediate area. So what we're trying to do with that is, again, just this is going to apply to any temporary signs in that specific 45 days prior to and 2 days after an election. So it would be not only political signs, but then the deck staining signs, or FedEx jobs for $15 an hour, those type of signs.
Maybe real estate too.
Yep, any temporary signs. So there's a lot of moving parts in a sign code, and so we have all of those specific signs regulated elsewhere. However, you can't really call out one specific type of sign to allow in the right-of-way for a period and exclude other temporary signs during that same period. So I don't anticipate that we would see a lot of random temporary signs pop up in the right-of-way during that same time period. Other cities have been operating with this type of language for the last year or two and have not had that problem. People are just, when they're looking at this, they're going to be looking at it for political sign reasons. We might see a few, and then we would go out after the election, after those 2 days, like we do now, and pick up any stray signs, and then go back to not allowing temporary signs in the right-of-way. So that's what Attorney Waters and I have come up with. I've attached the current relevant. Oh, sure.
I think, I'd have to read it, I've read through it, but I think we just need to make clear that, other than that 45-day period, the temporary signs can't be in the right of way, correct?
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
and that's, yeah.
And maybe it's said, straightforwardly enough, but I would ask, just check it,
Yeah.
because I didn't pick that up the first time I read it, so, but maybe it's there and I didn't read it well enough, but I just ask you to double check
Yeah.
that so it's clear.
So I've attached the sections of the code that are more relevant to this. So the first section would be signs that are excluded from permit. That would be these temporary signs. Political signs do not require a permit. Those types of signs do not. And so it's on page 8 of your packet. It's highlighted. Special event signs would be a lot of what we would be looking at. Signs of a temporary nature for campaigns, drives, seasonal or civic or philanthropic organizations not to exceed 32 square feet. That's kind of regulating some of those temporary signs that we have now. And then number 23 there below it is where we have our political sign language currently. And then another thing that we need to think about is residential districts. Currently, our regulations only allow one temporary sign on a residential lot, and that would be something like home of a Leavenworth pioneer, Black Lives Matter, those type of temporary signs that you see people putting up in their yards. If you look at the language from the state statute, it specifically says that in those 45 days prior and 2 days after, we can't regulate the number or placement of signs in the right-of-way or on private property. So again, there's a lot of moving parts and interconnected parts in a sign code, so we would have to get some language in here sort of exempting that one sign per yard rule in the 45 days prior and 2 days after. So as Paul said, right now we're in the process of updating the development regulations. We do that every year. So we'll be taking a look at all of the parts of the sign code to make sure that everything is consistent, there's no discrepancies or anything contradictory in there, to make sure that we can be in line with what statute requires and that we're not creating any loopholes or anything
Right,
like that.
yeah.
I
So-
just was hoping to have some uniformity. I think that's the key thing.
Yeah.
Because through every election, we have calls and questions and that sort of thing, but the thing with the sidewalk, so that wouldn't even be, the sidewalk wouldn't even be in there, right? Does that deal with the sidewalk? I never understood that. They have to be on the inside of the sidewalk or whatever, so that
Well,
wouldn't be in here anymore.
Yeah,
right?
they had to be out of the right of way, and the width of the right of way varies throughout town. And so without looking at a specific location, it's hard to tell people exactly where that right of way
Well, I
line
thought you
is.
could say 6 feet though, or whatever.
Yeah, so what we put in here was, since statute prohibits us from disallowing them in the right of way, we'll allow them in the right of way, but they've gotta be 6 feet from the
in.
curb.
Got it.
So you're not worrying about where that
So
right of way
that's-
line
that's
is,
still
they
pretty
just
far
gotta
back.
be 6 feet from the curb
Right.
to, prevent any, vision issues with drivers.
Okay. You don't have to worry about where the sidewalk is either, if it's 10 feet.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's always been kinda tough to
Yeah.
manage with folks, so.
Yeah, but some of the right of ways aren't, they're like from the curb, it's like 3 feet or 4 feet, so that,
Yeah.
we don't need to get into a big
No.
discussion about it, but I think we may be trying to be too finite with respect to the 6 feet setback, but.
And we just need to have some uniformity.
Yeah.
I think there should be a finite distance, and
It
the
just-
county has it.
Yeah,
They've got
I
a finite
agree.
distance from the center of the road. And so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, so I mean, whether
Yeah,
it's
we don't know what to
3 feet
expect
from the
here.
curb or 6 feet or 10 feet, it's easiest for people to, measure, okay, there's the curb, I'm gonna go
Yeah.
whatever distance
Yes.
from that curb.
Yeah,
It just-
it
it
allows
just-
them to do the right
Yeah.
thing, or helps them if they have a,
And that won't be
Clear-cut
possible in all areas,
guideline.
say downtown, there's really no way to put something 6 feet from a curb, and so maybe that just means there's not appropriate places to put them,
Well, downtown, I would put down the window.
yeah. So, people get creative.
Anyway, so, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're
Continue.
fine. So, this is the direction we're going. So again, we're just really wanting to be in line with state statute and then with other, court rulings that kind of govern sign codes. So, we'll be, again, looking at all the different parts of the sign code to make sure that there's no discrepancies or contradictions and making sure that we can be
Sounds
in
good.
shape for where we need to be when the next election rolls around, and hopefully make it a little bit easier for staff in terms of managing it and folks wanting to put out their signs.
I had a question about the signs for garage sales. It's page 7, I think it's 13. Garage sale signs may only be placed at the site of the sale.
Oh, yeah, that's always.
I don't know, I think maybe we could consider, or Ms. Hurley and the city manager could consider maybe a half a mile radius or a mile. I mean, if you're having a garage sale, I mean, these are our citizens, and I've seen them even further than that, which I
I
don't
know,
want.
they're probably not, I mean, they still would have to get the permission of
Right.
the owner, but my mother lived on a corner, and when Jerry Geese worked here, he would
Yeah.
go by there and pull the signs off of the pole
Yeah.
every week, because otherwise she'd be calling and complaining about them.
Yeah.
Because they were put on that pole because it was a very visible
Yeah.
location.
Yeah,
so-
you can't put it on a pole, but I've
so
seen
they
them
made
like,
That's been there a long time, the garage sale has to be in the yard, and I think it should stay there.
okay, well, I don't necessarily agree, but, I,
And to be totally honest, most garage sales are on the weekends, and we don't have code enforcement staff out on the weekends. The vast majority of people are gonna put their garage sale signs out on a few corners leading into their neighborhood, and the vast majority of folks pick those up when their garage sale is
They get
over, so
permission and-
it's actually
Okay.
very rare. I see them myself, and I know you all do too, but it's very
Yeah.
rare for code enforcement staff to come
Sure.
out on a Monday and see garage sale signs out where they shouldn't be. And it's nothing that we have ever
Had a
written
problem-
anybody
had a
over.
problem.
Well,
I
I'm
can tell you
looking forward to hearing what the planning commission has to say on this. and-
Ms.
Yes,
Hurley,
yes.
I got a couple of points. We say it needs to be 6 feet from the curb. I would say in 75% of the residential areas, they're gonna be out of the right of way because most sidewalks in the residential areas are within 6 feet of the curb. So we're gonna have to enforce that, so they're gonna have to go on the other side, the house side of the sidewalk, if you will. Because I believe many sidewalks are like that, so we have to do that. But my other question is, why can't we invoke home rule and just say, our sign regulation, or keep them as they are, and nothing in the right of way? And I have a follow-up question. Can we not invoke home rule on this one, just leave it as is?
Go ahead, Garland, if you want.
Usually when you do that and you go outside of the state statute, it has to be non-uniform, it has to be not uniform along all cities. So a lot of times a state statute that we charter out of says that it's only for cities of the first class or third class, and when it starts to be non-uniform, that's when we can charter out of the state statute.
So this is worldwide, or statewide. Okay, and the next question is, when we have these specific dates, let's say the Kiwanis Club, we're gonna sell Christmas trees. The only time they can put it up is during election season. I can see people coming to me and say, hey, this is fraught with problems. I got the Kiwanis Club that wants to sell Christmas trees. Why can't I put my sign up, in the right of way? But no, you can only put it up during election season.
In the right of way. They could put up.
No, I know, but why can't they? If we can allow Christmas tree signs up in the right of way during election season. You're not going to sell many Christmas trees, but why can't they then put their sign up? The Kiwanis Club put it up in the right of way December 1st, saying, "Come here for your Christmas tree."
Well, that would be a decision for the commission. If you want to start just carte blanche allowing temporary signs in the right of way, then that would be a decision for the commission to make. We've historically not allowed any in the right of way, and the only reason we're changing this is because of the state statute specifically related to this time period.
And, I don't disagree with that. I just think that, are we opening ourselves up for someone that says, hey, I want to be able to put a sign in the right of way, for Easter egg hunt or something, but it's not during election season. I said, why can't I do it? It's only during election season. I think we are making a separate class. What we're really doing is allowing political signs. We don't care about anything else. This thing is written for political signs. It's not written for garage sale. And it would be foolish to try to tell people that's what we're doing it for. So,
But I don't
are
think
we opening ourselves up to a problem? People,
Well, we aren't, because we're following state statute.
Yeah.
I think that's what you would indicate, is
Yeah.
that we are in line with state statute. Therefore, we don't have any, and we're following the law.
Yeah.
But so if there's some signs in the right of way, political signs during political season, during the time outlined, but then a month or two later, some well-meaning group puts up their signs for Christmas trees. I'm using that as an example. We've got to take them out. And these people can say, why? I just saw a political sign there. I think it stinks, is what I think. I just think
I know,
it stinks.
that happened with Camp Leavenworth, they were in the right of way and they had to be moved.
Yeah,
So, it was something that happened,
yeah.
that people didn't
yeah.
know to put them,
And
place
I
them
know people
properly.
just can't wait until political season to see all these signs, and boy, I'm looking forward to that. I can get to see them in the right of way now. Boy, I love them even more. But we cannot invoke home rule on this one, I understand.
Julie, can you talk about the 45 days not in the right of way? So if you wanted to do,
In terms of
just on private property.
on private
yeah.
property. So that would pretty much stay the same as it is now. So, you could have, in commercial or industrial areas, you could have your political signs on private property, your other, specified temporary signs on private property with permission of the property owner. We've got size regulations, that's already, kind of covered. So that's not gonna change any of that. And then, again, with the residential area, that would be the only private property part that would really change, since the statute says that we cannot regulate the number on private property. So, but yeah, in terms of what someone can place, like a business, if a business supports a certain candidate or, you know, is approached by a candidate to, you know, put their signs there, that would all still be the same.
Okay.
I think Jermaine might have something.
Commissioner, I was just gonna call.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, he kept waving.
I know, I was waiting until she got finished talking. Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, so just so I hear correct, only question that I had, and I just needed quick clarity. When it comes to like the commercial real estate signs or residential real estate signs, there's no time limit on these specific signs, correct?
Yeah, those are regulated separately. We've got specific
Okay.
regulations for real estate signs. Is that what you were asking about?
Yeah, because I got you. Thank you.
So real estate signs during election season can be put in the right of way too.
Yep, so it kind of opens it up to any temporary signs. And like I said, other cities that have changed to more this type of language haven't seen a huge, you know, rush of just random temporary signs in the right of way during that election season. And again, you know, you might see a few and you just have to leave them.
United Way signs up.
You can do that?
Yeah,
Right
so,
away.
yeah, so there would be some inevitably, but other cities have not seen a huge rush of that. So I wouldn't anticipate that we would necessarily either.
Commissioner Wilson, did you have any more? Anything else?
Yep, and what's the penalty? I know we normally pull them out, send a letter, and what happens if it's like violation, just period?
So with the political signs in general, what we've always done is when the election season is getting ready to gear up, we send out a letter to all registered candidates with the county clerk's office and let them know our sign regulations, and just ask for their assistance in making sure that those regulations are followed. If we do find them or they shouldn't be, which has been in the right of way or something else like that, we will pull them. We will not dispose of them. We'll keep them here at City Hall so that the candidates are able to come pick them up. There's no fines or violations or citations or anything like that.
Weren't there some in this past election? Some that had some sign violations?
Yeah, and you're correct, that this was actually the first year that we had done that, and I believe they were all on residential properties that had put up signs that were too large.
And so when that happens, they get a letter from code enforcement saying you have to
Yes.
abate this by
Yeah.
a week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
If they don't, then when you check on it, past that due date,
Yep,
then it gets referred to court.
correct.
And it's the property owner's
Yes,
responsibility.
and
to
those
do that.
are the ones on private property that are placed incorrectly, incorrect size or something of that nature, not any that are in the public right of way that we've found.
Okay.
I mean, there is a difference in the size of the sign permitted on like commercial property,
Yep,
correct?
you can have up to a 32 square foot sign on a commercial or industrial property, and then on the residential properties, it's the much smaller sign.
And for the commercial property where you have the larger sign, can that sign be on a trailer?
Yes.
It can? Okay, that's not a problem.
The signs on trailers are then, there's a little bit different regulations, and so they have to, you know, they can't just be set there, they have to move every so often, but yeah. So again, with the sign code, there's a lot of moving parts. We try to cover as many scenarios as people are gonna come up with, so
Right,
that's why, you know, we kind of set the general, this is what we wanna do, and then we'll have to kind of go through everything and make sure that it's all consistent.
Thank you.
Yes, I did a major study on signs in the last few years, and on trailers too.
Right, right.
Anything else on this? We look forward to hearing from the planning commission on this.
Yep, so you'll see this back, when it comes back for your final approval, it'll be with that whole other batch of updates that we're making to the development regulations, so we'll be sure to go through this in detail at that point, but that's when you'll see it back for approval,
Great, thank you.
so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is review land bank.
Julie?
Okay, so we just wanted to circle back on this, it's been a little while since we've talked about it, we are still working on getting a land bank established. So again, a land bank is a mechanism that's set up in state statute to allow us to address blighted and vacant residential properties that are maybe not worthy or qualify for demolition, that we feel like could be brought back into use as a residential structure. And so statute has established a mechanism for us to do that. So we are working on that. Just wanted to again circle back around, kind of let you know where we're at with that. So properties for this would be identified by code enforcement. We envision it happening with our demo process every year as we're looking at properties to potentially take down. We always find a few that we think, gee, we really wish someone could just fix this up. It could be a really nice house. So we'd be identifying the properties at that point for inclusion in the land bank. We would have to work to clear the title of that property. A lot of those vacant properties have kind of a complicated title history. They may be in a trust or deceased owners, something like that. So to do that, we would have to establish a memorandum of understanding with the county to work to clear those titles. We would get the titles cleared. Then we would have a sort of a bank of vetted contractors that we know have the means and the funds and the ability to renovate and rehab these properties. They would be notified of the availability of these properties. They would get to bid on them. The properties would be sold to these contractors. We would then have an agreement with the contractor that it would be turned around in a certain amount of time, get that put back on the market, and then the contractor would be able to sell that property for their profit. That's sort of the same model that's used in other cities in the state that have a land bank set up, and that's working pretty successfully for the cities that have that going. So establishment of a land bank also requires the creation of a land bank board. Statute does allow the governing body or the city commission to function as that board, and given that we'd only be looking at a couple of properties a year, staff would suggest that the city commission does function as that land bank board. So I included a kind of a draft policies and procedures in here that we've been working on. Sort of outlines what the land bank board would be responsible for. You'd be sort of managing, making final decisions on these few properties that we brought in. So again, sort of where we're at, working with, again, City Attorney Waters on getting the documents established, working on that MOU that would need to be enacted with the county, working on finalizing the policies and procedures, and then working on an ordinance that we would need to pass in order to establish the land bank. So, if you have any questions?
Good idea.
I have a question. This is Hurley. Just when you said a bank of developers, I mean, how does that process work?
So so the unified government, KCK, Wyandotte County has a really successful and sort of robust program for their land bank. And what that is contractors, developers who are interested in this would have the ability to sort of apply to be on our list of, preferred contractors, however that was set up. And so, we would, again, have vetted them, make sure that they have the ability and the funds and, everything, and they can do what they say they would do. And then so it wouldn't just be some random, sort of person off the street who says, hey, I want to, fix this up and, give me a shot. So it would be someone that we've, actually taken a look at, looked at references, that type of thing would be the only contractors that we'd be working with.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. What kind of memorandum of understanding do we need to have with the Leavenworth County?
We are working on that. I have a draft over to the city attorney right now. And that's, again, basically an arrangement that they would work with us to get that title cleared. What the Register of Deeds would be the primary office. Yeah.
Okay.
I've got a question about, is this just for residential properties, or could this be for commercial properties too?
It could be for commercial properties. We don't envision it that way at this time. If at some point it grew to that point, statute does allow for that.
Okay, and getting back to Commissioner Leonhard's point, I think on page 16, at the, about a third of the way down where you say Class A properties with structures, that first bullet is what you're talking about in terms of, I think that's probably what Wyandotte is doing in terms of the letter of credit, the pre-approval letter, or other documentation of financial ability to actually do something with this property, correct?
Correct.
And I actually was thinking when we were looking at, kind of we were looking at it from the standpoint of residences and our demolition list and things like that. That language reminded me of what was in that appendix from, Wyandotte for those type of properties.
Yeah.
Like for a roof or something like that, so that's just an observation. And I kind of like that, not only for the land bank, but for what we finally decide to do as far as the properties that are on the demolition list. If somebody's actually gonna take the time and spend the money to make the correction,
Right.
to correct the deficiency, so.
Commissioner Wilson, do you have any questions on this process or concerns?
No, ma'am, no comments or questions.
Okay. Anything, Mr. Parsons?
No.
Okay. I'm good, anything?
No, good.
Okay,
All
so
right.
we're gonna try and get this, turned around as quick as we can. We would really like to have it in place, and functioning for this next round of demos that we'll be starting this year, so, hope to have this back to you here fairly quickly.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, comprehensive plan
Julie?
update.
Okay, we just wanted to give you kind of a quick update on the comp plan, since it's been a little while since our consultants have been here. They were meeting with you fairly regularly, and now it's been a little bit since you've seen them, so just wanted to let you know where we're at. As you know, the last couple of weeks, we had our community engagement meetings that we had to do virtually. Held those via Zoom, just given the current circumstances, couldn't have any big in-person meetings, which we would typically do and typically want to have. I know Commissioner Griswold and Commissioner Preisinger were able to each attend one of those meetings. The first one, we had a pretty good turnout. I think we had over 20 members of the public, which, given that it's a Zoom meeting, I felt like was pretty good. Participation in the second one was a little bit lighter, but we still had a good group. The folks that did show up to it were pretty engaged, and there was a lot of good conversation with the folks that did attend. So that was really positive. I know the consultants were happy with the feedback that they got as well. So where they're at, they are finishing up the drafts of the chapters for the plan. They were just needing to work in that public feedback that they got from the meetings. And then with the website that they created, they've been getting a lot of feedback from there as well. Melissa's done a really good job of promoting that on the city's social media channels, and so we've been able to direct a lot of folks to that and get a lot of feedback that way. So they're working all of that feedback into the draft chapters. We expect to start seeing those for staff to review this week or next week, so we'll be getting through those. And then we are looking at having the consultants up to present a draft plan to the Planning Commission at their April 5th meeting. And then here at a study session on April 6th. And so pending any comments or feedback from yourselves and the Planning Commission, we would be getting that back for adoption as soon as possible after that.
Sounds good. Any questions on the comprehensive plan?
No, I think it's been a very, very good process, deliberate, and, I enjoyed the 2 hours or so, maybe even a little bit longer, went by very quickly, because there were a lot of great ideas.
It did. And it was, I wasn't quite sure how the Zoom would work, and typically when you have big public meetings, there's, a few people who talk, and then most people don't, but I think with this format, it actually worked pretty good that everybody who was there was engaged and participating. So I feel like we had, probably about the same level of participation as we'd have had in a regular format, so.
A lot of times in a town hall, you don't even get that many people
Right.
coming in.
No, you don't.
That's good. That's really good. Okay, anything else on that? Next item on the agenda, set dates for city commission goal setting.
Yeah, we've moved right through the agenda tonight. I have offered a couple dates for City Commission annual goal setting session. If you'll notice, they're a couple weeks later. We had moved them up a little bit or earlier in the year to help us with budget preparation. But then after talking with Julie over the last couple weeks about how the comp plan was going, staff will start seeing draft chapters in the next week or two, so we'll have an idea, but the commission won't have seen the comp plan yet. And I don't expect the comp plan to make a huge impact on, completely reconfiguring our goals, but I think it's important that you've at least seen a draft of them before we get to the goal setting. So, I pushed it back. I didn't wanna push it back too far, cause we really get into budget, time. But I've offered April 9th or April 16th. Those are both Fridays. Traditionally, we've done this on a Friday. April 2nd, obviously, is before the comp plan, and it's also Good Friday. April 9th, obviously, is pretty quick after you've seen the presentation of the draft at the April 6th study session. But we can turn that around or push it to April 16th. So those are just before you for discussion or some other time if that's better for you.
I'm okay for either date. April 9th, I think, would be my preference, but I'm okay with either day.
I'm okay with either date.
Yeah, I am
My
too.
preference slightly would be April 16th, but either date works for me. It really does. I mean, I would give you a little bit more time between
Commissioner,
the 5th and the 6th of April, but listen, either date's good. And I understand the rationale for pushing it to the right a bit, so.
Commissioner Wilson,
We'll say the 16th, but the 9th works for me as well.
16th, you prefer 16th? I'm fine with that.
He was joking. He said the 9th works for him just fine. The 9th, right?
9th? Yeah, 9th is good.
The 9th?
Commissioner Pricey, are you?
I don't have a coin to flip, it makes no
Okay.
difference.
That's fine. The 9th? Yep.
The 9th is good.
And it's
Okay,
one-
so
1 to
we'll
5.
do, to be determined on the location. My guess is probably the community center, give us a little more space, but, we can talk about that. I'll talk to you, Madam Mayor, and individual commissioners, and we'll let you know plenty of time before that.
The 16th is right around my grandson's birthday, and I'm thinking if it's nice, I'm gonna go to Colorado.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
While
And
we,
it doesn't matter. I can stay another day. Okay, that sounds good.
So it's the 9th?
9th, everybody okay
Correct.
with 9th?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just
We'll do it.
double
And
check.
then if something comes up, then we can set it back a date, right? Put it back. It's easy.
I have a question while Ms. Hurley is still there, and if I can't do it, I had an alibi. I had one question on the signage thing. Can I ask the question? Mr. Frank?
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
It is a study session, it's not.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, so during this past political season, we had, the signs, some of the big signs, Trump, there were some Biden ones, but what if it's up on like a flagpole? Is that, what are we thinking
We
about?
got a few questions about that. Flags are defined specifically in the regulations as not really applying to this. So I think there's still a few folks in town that have a Trump flag up that I've seen on a flagpole or hanging on their deck, and it's a flag, and by definition does not count as a political sign. So,
But if we stick a flag onto a light pole, that is it.
yeah, it couldn't be on a light pole in the,
Right, 'cause I saw
public or
one in
anything.
Missouri, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've seen a few on, private properties and, that type of thing. And we did get some questions about that after the election, and
Sure.
went through, and they just don't fit the definition of a political sign.
Is there any, besides a political sign, is there any limit on the number of flags that, like a residence, can fly?
Nope, there's not.
Okay, just wondering.
How many flagpoles you gonna put up?
Hey,
I just got one, I have one. That's enough for me.
just wondering. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Before I go around the room here, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about vaccines, because I've been getting a lot of strange calls the last couple of days. The rumor going around that they're not giving any vaccines this week, that is not true. Another rumor going around is that there aren't any vaccines this week, that is not true.
No, that's not.
Another rumor going around, I'm gonna have Commissioner Leonhardt address that has to do with saying that now the Council on Aging is doing all the
Vaccinating.
You talk about that.
Okay, so what our process is at the Leavenworth County Council on Aging is, for anyone that maybe doesn't feel comfortable with a computer, doesn't have a computer, We don't want to have them left behind by any means. So 65 and older can call me. I've been signing some people up. It's called a vaccine request form. So I get their name, their address, their phone number. If they do have an email, that's great. If they don't, that's fine too. We take care of it. And then we send it off to the health department. Then for the Leavenworth County Health Department, then, compiles a list of the people, and then it's their responsibility to call the member and set up an
That's the only
appointment.
difference.
Yeah,
The only
so,
difference.
yeah, that's
They
the,
aren't getting any priority
No,
over the
no
rest of
pri-
the
no-
public.
no
It's all-
priority.
It's all going into a list. They just will send an email back to those that have email, and they'll call.
it just
So
allows
it's-
everyone to have the option, if they don't have an email to, yep, that's it.
Okay, I think there's much. Do you want to give out the number in case anybody wants to call and sign up?
Yeah, it's 684-0777.
Thank you. Maybe that'll clear up some rumors. Anything
Right.
else, any other rumors you guys have heard about vaccines?
No.
Topic?
Right, I've heard everyone that you've said, and, yeah, the process is ongoing. The county health department's handling it, and I know that they're handling it as well as they can and as professionally as they can, and I know of no underhanded things going on. Jamie Miller and his staff, they've been working very, very hard for the last 11 months, and they're going to be working very, very hard for the next few months, and they're doing it, I think, very well and very professionally.
Yeah, whatever vaccines they're getting out. Looking at the report yesterday, it's like a 96.7% utilization rate.
Yes.
2,100 doses received and doses administered, 2,031, so that's really great.
Okay. Thank you guys. And,
Sure.
let's go around the horn now. Commissioner Wilson, do you have any words of wisdom for us tonight?
No rumors, just stay blessed and stay focused.
Those are good words of
Those are
wisdom.
good, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Griswold.
No, just, the trend continues downward, and just in terms of the two metrics that I look at, which is the positivity rate for testing, it was last week, on the 25th of January, it was, I think, hold on a minute, was 7.61%, and on Monday, yesterday, it was 6.31%, so that's good. And then the number of daily case counts is down too. From a week ago on the 25th, it was 24.86, and yesterday it was 20.43. So that's encouraging, and with the vaccines coming on board, and so I just thought I would share that with our citizens. And it's right there in the county. You can go on their website, the COVID-19 statistics, and it's easy to access now. And if there's anything else, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Leonhardt.
No, I didn't have anything.
Okay, I have one other thing. Oh,
You want to go first, or you want me?
Oh.
I haven't gone yet.
oh, you haven't gone.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. One, I want to echo what Ms. Hurley said. I want to thank everyone that took part in the comprehensive plan, Leavenworth 2030. As she said, I took part January 27th, I think Commissioner Griswold on January 20th. And there was a lot of good discussion, and I appreciate all the people that did take part. One other thing that I found troubling, it was in the Kansas City paper earlier last week sometime. Rodney Stephen. Rodney Stephen is the owner of the Genesis Health Club. He's out of Wichita. I don't know if he's a billionaire, but he's richer than all of us combined in this room. About 4 or 5 years ago, he's the owner, as I said, owner of Genesis, among other things. He has these health clubs around our area, our state of Kansas. He tried to get a tax exempt status going, claiming cardio wellness, because some hospitals that were tax-free because they were charity, religious hospitals or someone's that were off the tax rolls, that he is competing with them. They got tax-free status. Why shouldn't he? They pushed that very hard. It did pass the Senate. Then it went up to the House, and one of the House members stood up and he read every member who had received money from Rodney Stephen. Said, paid you 500, contributed this much. It failed miserably, like 104 to 16, something like that. Well, it's back again. The argument this time is that, for example, the community center downtown has that small room. It has a couple free weights and maybe universal, I don't know what else, maybe some dumbbells, and I guess the walking track. And the taxpayers support that, so therefore he's in competition with it, but it's unfair competition since the taxpayers are paying for this, so he shouldn't be taxed at his place. So he's looking for tax-free status on all of his buildings, and I invite you, and that means the city would lose their taxes on it, the county and the school district. And I believe that building out there probably generates $50,000 to $60,000 a year in real estate, property taxes alone. Plus, I haven't confirmed this, but I do believe that memberships there are also subject to sales tax. So then, you're going to lose 9.5% on that. And I don't like it. And I was also a little bit troubled that our former congresswoman was the one who's was the what's the term I'm looking for? Lobbyist for it testified, I think, at a Senate committee in favor of this. And I did talk with her and told her I was dead against it. We had a one-on-one conversation, but she was representing her client. But I would ask if anybody feels that this is wrong, please contact your representatives and let them know. This would have an impact. In other towns, his argument is, well, they have a YMCA, and that Y has, and some of the Ys do have big fitness centers, in addition to their meeting rooms for babysitting and different things that Ys do. And as I talked with a couple people involved in local government, they said a good way around that is, well, those Ys that do have that, figure out that square footage of that, tax that at property tax rates, rather than give that tax-free status. That will have a substantial impact on ad valorem property taxes that are collected throughout this state, and specifically in this town too. So I just hope that this gets picked up and people talk to the representative about it, that if they like it or don't like it.
Can I add to that? That was on my list too, I haven't already pulled up. So Senate Bill 13 is the truth in taxation legislation that's going through the Kansas Senate. We've talked about that. That is about if you increase property tax, you have to have a special meeting. It is being added as an amendment, and Commissioner Preisinger is mostly correct. It's property tax exemption. The amendment doesn't mention sales tax exemption, just property. But the argument being that the Wichita YMCA doesn't pay property tax, but they have a full membership and a full gym and all that. I think that's really poor policy making. You're taking property tax out of police, fire, parks, and public works, rather than coming up with a better solution. And so I would ask the commission for official consensus to communicate that with our legislative delegation, that we are opposed to any amendment that further erodes our property tax and gives special status to anybody who currently pays property tax. So beyond just contacting it, I'd like for the commission to provide me with consensus to communicate that to our full delegation tomorrow.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Supported.
yes.
I do have two more things real
Yes,
quick. It is pothole season. The freeze-thaw cycle is around. Leavenworth is no different than anybody else in the Midwest, and I think we're actually a little bit better than we've been in years past for some of the road work we've done. But if you see a pothole, please call the service center. It's 682-0650. That is much preferred than posting it on Facebook. Let us know, and we will be out there with our street crews to fix it. If you'll notice, we did some major work on 4th Street, just north of 4th and Shawnee.
I've seen that.
We'll see more about that project. The city is going to reconstruct the entirety of 4th Street through the downtown from Choctaw to Seneca here in the next 18 months. We'll start that project, and that will solve a lot of those chronic problems. But we went ahead and did a full mill and overlay just north of Shawnee on 4th Street in the southbound lanes. to address a problem that arises every year at this time. So please call those potholes in, and our crews will get out and attend to them. And then just finally, we put some information on the city's website tonight from the Kansas Department of Labor. Tens of thousands of Kansans were subject to identity theft and fraudulent unemployment claims. Now that January started, they're receiving 1099s for 1099-G forms for unemployment benefits that they did not collect. So the state has set up both a hotline number and a form for you to do that. So you can go to the city's website and find that, or the Department of Labor website. So you can report that fraudulent activity. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Kramer, I'm sorry I didn't call him.
Oh, no, that's okay.
I just have one more thing. At the last meeting, we discussed an exemption for, a religious exemption for ministers as far as during their homilies, during their services from the mask order. And since that time, I've talked to several religious, including my own priest, who is adamantly opposed to being exempted. They don't feel like it's being a hardship, and they want to make a good impression on their, community, be a good example. And that's what I'm hearing. So with that, I would wish to withdraw my consensus to look at that, to do an exemption. Is that the correct way to say that, or?
Yeah, that would be if you would be, yeah.
I am, yes. Yes.
So at that point, we would, from my recollection, we would be down to 2 on a consensus to review an amendment for that. So if there's any other discussion on, I believe we have Commissioner Wilson and Commissioner Griswold, with Commissioner Bowder or Mayor Bowder removing her consensus. So we would either not come back to the commission unless somebody else changed their mind.
So, I just think we would need, I just think we need a little bit more full, and I understand what our mayor, Madam Mayor, is saying. I just wanted a little bit more fulsome discussion. So is it 3 that want to withdraw? Okay.
I don't want to withdraw. That's where I stood from the very beginning. I'm not changing. Yeah,
Well, because I've had other people reach out to me
Yeah.
that,
school teachers wear them 8
Yes.
hours a day, et cetera.
Yes.
Many people do.
healthcare workers wear 12-hour
Yeah,
shifts.
yeah, I don't think we need to do
Leave it as it
a
is.
special class, and I've had clergy reach out to me and said the same thing. Thank you for doing it, and they want to set the example, and it's not that big a
Well, most of
hardship.
them want to set the example, not
Yeah.
all of them. I mean,
Yeah.
Commissioner Wilson had, and I heard kind of the same thing, not as many ministers or pastors as probably Commissioner Wilson heard from, but when we first did this, I did hear from at least 2 or 3, but, so, that's fine. I kind of like more of a fulsome discussion, but if it's 3-2, I guess it's 3-2, but I don't know if Commissioner Wilson has anything to say, but, I understand how the democracy works in the city commission.
Commissioner Wilson?
So what I'm hearing, there's no need to have the discussion pertaining to pastors not being able to wear masks whenever they're preaching on the podium.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, we would not have a consensus at this point to bring it back as an agenda item.
And it's perfectly permissible for this, I mean, we had a consensus, was it last week?
Right.
And now we don't no longer have a consensus, so that's okay as far
Yes.
as the Robert Rules of Order and everything? Okay.
We don't do Robert's Rules of Order. That
Well, we
handcuff us.
whatever. We do have, we may not do that, but I mean, we do have pretty strict, rules as far as how things go.
It falls within our code of procedure.
Okay.
So that's-
Not to put you on the spot, Madam Mayor, and your decision was based upon you reaching out and speaking with different pastors.
Yes,
They stated they wanted to set an example.
yes. That is correct. That is correct.
Sorry. Just reaching out to any pastors that are watching this, I just encourage you reach out to the city commissioners, state how you feel, and like I said, that's good.
That's what I heard from after the last meeting, so. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody have anything? Any other business? Okay, we are adjourned.